I swear she knows when I'm about ready to start filming, but I know a lot of you love her. What's going on, guys? It's Chad. Welcome back to the Dorky and 40 RC channel. It has been a bit, and a driver that I know recently said that running 12 scale on road is basically like a big puzzle, and he honestly couldn't be any more correct. If you don't have all the pieces to the puzzle, you're pretty much just going to bang your head against the wall and have problems. So we're going to talk about the Metricks car today, and it's sitting here on the bench. If you guys don't know what this is the CRC Metricks that we are running in GT12. Now, mine might look a little bit different here because we have went and applied some of the CRC upgrades. They've recently changed rules in GT12 where the weight has been lowered and all of this other stuff. You can now run like LMH bodies on these things, and so cornering, steering, and everything just becomes very, very important. And having the lighter carbon fiber parts that we have with the top deck and their new narrow front end with a new servo mount up here gives you that cornering speed and ability. And as a new driver, that definitely helps you because you're not sitting there and yanking on the wheel constantly. Now, we're going to talk about some issues and some things about this thing. I can tell you for sure, this car is definitely light years ahead of even my X-Ray X12 2024. I put all the electronics back into 24 and went and raced it one Saturday ago, and just the ease and the drivability of this compared to it was just night and day. You know, having the pivot and all that kind of stuff is amazing. The thing is that the more accurate and the more possibilities you have with the car, you need more pieces of that puzzle. So one of the big things I have been fighting with is I went and did a lot of racing over the holidays. Like, we had a holiday race for the New Year's and just a lot and pretty much burned myself out. And then, even though I had all the intentions of racing yesterday and worked on this car pretty much all week, I still ended up going oval racing. More to come about that. So the pieces to this puzzle that we are missing, like, first of all, like, what are you, if you bought this kit, like, what are the things that you are definitely going to want to buy that you're going to need in order to be successful? Right off the bat, you're going to need some, I think most of you will need softer springs for GT12 just to get the car to rotate a little bit more. The kit comes with 55 front springs and 55 springs all around for everything else. I pretty much would recommend that you at least get some 50 front springs and also 50 for your kingpin springs as well. And the springs here, and here are the pro tapered. These springs on the kingpins are specifically made for the Metricks car. So if you're shopping on A Main or on CRC, make sure that you are looking at the Metricks springs for the kingpins. I picked up some. The car drove like shit for days and I had no idea what was going on. And it turned out that I had the wrong length of spring in there. So, you know, you live and you learn, unfortunately. So definitely softer springs. The other thing that you're definitely going to want to have is just randomly, you're going to want to have some of these extra damper cups. Now, these things like go on top and they're a 3D printed TPU type of deal, and they just pop on top of your side dampers there that you can see, and you're going to lose them. They might fall off. They're real cheap, so definitely order a couple sets of those. And then beyond that, you're going to want a pretty good selection of fluid. A lot of them talk about using like 15K and 30K. I know racers that have went up to like 60, 80, and even 100K on the dampers, and some a little bit thicker on the kingpins, like I think maybe like 20 to 30K, not as high, but definitely you're going to need something a little bit thicker than they recommend, like with the Kyosho 15 or 30K, just to basically control the rotation and allow you to fine tune how you come into the corners, because this thing like I said, it rotates on a dime for sure. Having the pivot and then having everything a little bit lighter with this carbon fiber, narrow for more steering and everything else. Now, the other thing to talk about is the precision when it comes to like getting your ride height. It's the hardest damn thing on this car. It's just very hard. It's not as easy as the X-Ray, the older design where you can just kind of pop some shims in and out, and the car comes with a lot of different shims and everything else. The CRC gives you everything that you need to basically fit and accommodate any type of tire. But what a lot of people have been doing, especially us that are running either CRC tires or the older SJT tires, is we're still cutting them down. The difference is that if you cut these down, you don't have to cut them in between each heat and all that kind of stuff to like keep going faster. They will still last and you're not going to break them, and the wheels aren't going to break and everything like the older SJTs. If you go with the gravities, of course, they're going to be a lot bigger. You can't do anything with those. They're going to wear on you a little bit. I was running gravities, but it's a total change to the car, and it's a lot of work because you add more points of ride height adjustment that you got to figure out. So, you've got these little spacers right here that will go in between the two decks, and you can keep stacking these spacers here, and then you have to change these battery plate spacers as well, and then that's going to raise the top deck and the lower deck. But then you're going to have to kind of figure out, they give you some guidelines in the newest manual, but they're still not even close. So the way to get around that is to basically get lucky and cut your tires to the right size. So I have trimmed my tires down. I went a little bit too aggressive on the rear. I wanted these at about 41 and I got them down to like 40 and a half. I wanted these at 40 and a half and I got them below. So I ended up going like 40 and a half and 40. So I wanted them a little bit higher. So as a result of that, my setup is a little bit off and things are a little bit lower. So right now the front end of the car sits around 3.2 and the rear end is sitting around 3.5. I would like to be more around the 3.7 to 3.8 and like 3.5 to 3.6, like kind of up there. And then, I did tweak a chassis somehow. Being a newer driver and these 12 scale things, they even carbon fiber and everything can tweak. And I checked all the different parts on everything, measured everything. And, there was a huge side to side difference of like 1 millimeter, which is, you don't know what side is low and you don't know what side is high, and you put it on the flat pieces and you can kind of get it to move around and this and that, but it's almost impossible to figure it out. So what I definitely am not running this car until my shipment gets here. So I went online to Sagami RC Fab, who makes all of this amazing extra stuff for pretty much any kind of on-road car. And they have pretty much all the parts that you're going to need to make all of these tiny adjustments a lot easier, and also just kind of improve like your quality of life. So they've got various types of kingpin shims to go underneath the steering block on the kingpin, and then they make front ride height shims to go on underneath the bottom of the kingpin to raise the entire assembly up, which is what I have been doing. The problem with that is that when you raise that up to get the ride height that you want, then the bottom of the actual wheel will scrub against this screw underneath here. Well, it's actually inside there when you start going to like full droop and full lock. And shout out to Chip for bringing that up. I did notice that I had some rubbing on the inside of the wheels. Really didn't put two and two together because I had stared at this car so much and played with it so much that I didn't know what was going on. Now I do. So Sort of Fast does sell some lowrider screws as well, which basically are button head screws that are super flat, but if you're going to make an order from Sagami, you might as well just go ahead and get those two. They're these right here, and that way you can use these in combination with these front ride height shims right here to get your front ride height that you want. And then you can buy these kingpin shims in all of these different sizes. So that way you can use them to kind of like take up droop and all of that kind of stuff and make some final adjustments without having to take the kingpins off. They also make these plates for the rear, which I think are definitely super handy as well. Now, you get 3D printed overall pieces in different heights here, but when it comes to fine tuning, you could always run some screws and shims up through the bottom here and shim that stuff up. But then you're just going to kind of create you're going to create more of an issue that you could tweak your car if you've got things kind of standing up on posts. Now, I know the Awesomatics, I think, are like that. I don't think they use full long shims. Maybe I'm wrong, but those are super handy. So I definitely would recommend adding those. The other thing is going to be this pointed set of pivot screws. Now, this will take a ton of error out of how tight you make your pivot screws on your top and bottom plate. And that basically is what controls this side to side movement. So they need to be touching, and it needs to be tight so you don't have any up and down type of movement that's going on there. But you also don't want it too loose. So, how do you measure it? You don't want it too loose, you don't want it too tight. So this right here will definitely take a lot of error out of it as far as that goes. Now they make all kinds of stuff. They make a rear axle strut, which is a pretty popular thing. And basically what that is going to do is that's just going to sit back here and go into each side of the bearing carriers to basically protect everything, keep everything laterally stable here in the back. And then we've got that coming. And then we've got some of the carbon side stiffeners coming as well that can bolt in here. And I think what that is going to do is, I don't really need it to be any stiffer, for like extra turning or anything. But I think what that would do is just give me a little bit more tweak resistance in case I get into a crash. And you can see how those just kind of bolt in there. And the more bolts that you run through there, obviously the tighter that you are going to get everything and the stiffer you're going to make those side to side chassis. So a lot of extra stuff to like add onto this car. And I know the price of the $280 keeps on going up. And that was one of the big draws of this car. But still, you could buy every part that they have and everything that you needed to get, and you would be still all in way cheaper than buying anything else. And then there's other people that are already doing all kinds of other, accessories and mods and everything for this car. But I love the car. It definitely is the way that I'm going to run. Right now, they're running a 3 weeks point series or something. So all these like amazing drivers decided to start running GT12 all of a sudden. So I'm lucky enough to race with in Northeast Ohio with some of the best. A pretty damn good contingent of racers that are up there. They all performed well. There's like a Hootie champion and all kinds of stuff like that. But I might creep in like that third week. I missed this weekend because we did oval. Next week, I think I might do some off-road and just kind of clear my mind a little bit and play with something a little bit different versus staring at this car right here. But that's just kind of where I'm at with that stuff. Other than that, anything that is extra that you would need, I think you definitely need to worry about all of the ride height stuff and the clearances. And also be very careful when you are building your car. Use some type of grease or something to help tap your screws when you're screwing in through like the carbon fiber. Use thread lock when you're going, if you have the top metal plate as well. And then these the materials, I did polish a bunch of stuff, but this is all new hardware because I was checking for the tweak. So I didn't polish like any of this stuff, but it's crazy that their screws kind of come brown and that they polish completely clear. Very weird. So other than that, you know, the car is great. I can't wait to run it again, but I also don't really want to run it right now. So kind of exhausted with the whole experience right now. And that's just on-road racing. You know, I never would have thought that right now I could say that my F1 is solid. We worked a lot on it over the holidays. I got butchered by a freaking bearing that was actually broke that I didn't know, because you could spin it in the axle and it spun just fine and everything. And you could rev it up on the bench and everything was good. But then like under side lateral load, the car would just die and do all kinds of things. No matter what setup changes we made to that car, it would not do anything, that stupid F1 car. And then all of a sudden, it decided to come apart, and there was the rest of the bearing on the axle. Replaced them, and boom, it's good. So now literally that thing is ready to go and just drive. So pretty happy about that. So at least we got somewhere out of a couple weeks, and we had, of course, a lot of fun with the boys and everything. And now it's like the depths of winter, and my on-road racing program is basically as cold as it is outside right now. So that's it, guys. We will talk to you later. If you got any questions about anything or comments about something that maybe I am doing wrong, I would appreciate it. We will talk to you all later. Peace.